We had our son dedicated here at the Compass Church back when he was 3.5 months old. And Pastor Dale asked us what would we like prayed over him, and we asked for strength. Little did we know at that time how much he would need that just 3 days later. I went upstairs to check on the kids. The girls were both sleeping happily, so I opened up Charlie's door, and the sound that was coming from him was a terrible gasping, just this tiny sound. So I turned on the light and found him completely gray and unresponsive, and I knew we were in trouble, but at the same time I knew he wasn't dead. There was some noise coming out of him, so I picked him up and his body just went limp like a doll and screamed John at the top of my lungs.
I woke up to Laura screaming, and I just was completely, scared because I knew it was bad. As soon as Laura handed him to me, I had him and he was limp and, just barely gasping. I just immediately started praying to God, God, help us with our son.
We headed off to the emergency room where they diagnosed him as having double aspiration pneumonia and said that his situation was so critical they needed to transfer him to a different hospital in order to give him more specialized pediatric ICU care. So we got to Lutheran General's emergency room and they told me to wait outside for 30 minutes while they got him stabilized. And 5.5 hours later, they came out to get us to say that we needed to come in because they could not stabilize him. They said that on a typical adult, they would consider handbagging for 1 to 2 hours and then stop and not keep going. And with Charlie, they had it going for, I don't even know, 10 to 12 hours before they got the surgery started to put his heart-lung bypass machine in. And it was just incredible that they were willing to continue doing that.
It was tough. It was really tough, He was on the brink. We were there, watching him, and people would come, nurses, doctors. When you see the nurses crying, looking at your son, it's bad.
He was in the ICU on his bypass machine for 8 days, and after that they put him on ventilators. And normally the ventilator time should be 4 to 5 weeks post the bypass machine, and he was on it for only 2 days. During his whole ICU stay, he was named the miracle baby on the floor. The nurses and doctors couldn't believe the gains that he was making and the way that he was just dumbfounding them with his recovery. And so after 2.5 weeks in ICU, Charlie got to come home 100% perfect, and we are just in constant feeling of gratitude for the things that God has done with his life and the blessing that he has been. Watching people's reactions to Charlie's ICU stay and our webpage that we were putting out with these regular blogs, and seeing people come to Christ who had seemed so hard-hearted before that, made us realize that as painful and as horrible as those 2.5 weeks were, we would do it all over again in order to see somebody become a believer, in order to watch these people come to faith and to see their lives changed because of our ordeal.